who we are. Uh, we are. So this is the teachers' lounge, but this very well by the end could morph into something completely different with us. This,
Right.
this
Well, and you know what? The teachers' lounge is like, come on, that's the place where we're all gathered together. Depending on the distance it is from your principal's office, we're whispering in our bitch sessions and
yes,
about, which teacher's screwing us over, which admin is giving us the wrong looks, which kid is asking the dumb questions or not turning in their work, or, comparing at the beginning of the year. That's your compared contrast uh your roster's going like, let me see.
yes, yes.
Oh,
Oh, you
you
got
got
him. You got
her.
him.
Okay, let me see. Like, almost all of your kids are going to be great, but that one you got to,
I love it when like the new teacher comes in and they have no clue at all about any of the students. I used to love that. I'm like, oh man, this class, your other two classes are great, but you got it. It happened to me my first year teaching, man. Well, not my first year. It was I think no, it was my first year when other teachers were looking over my roster and they're like, oh my god, dude, they stuck you with all them your first year. And I'm like, yeah, what? Who's that? They're like, oh man, and you hear all the stories.
yeah,
So
my first year was like that. It was like the fifth grade teacher was like, let me see your roster. Because I was teaching sixth grade, and like,
right,
oh God, he came back. They let him come back. Oh my God, they let him come back. Jeez.
yeah,
And
he
it's like,
was.
oh my God. But so that's the teachers lounge. This is where we're gonna start doing our complaining or grievances. We won't hold this during a Wednesday session. Um, because
Yeah,
let's face it, the last thing you want to do is hear a teachers lounge on a Wednesday. But a little bit,
after
yeah, after a long day.
after
I
a
don't
staff
know.
meeting. Do you do your staff meetings on Wednesdays? I think most people do staff. I always remember staff meetings on Wednesday. I know my school still does, and every school I've been
What
at, for
when
some
did
reason,
that
Wednesday.
become? Yeah, how did that become standard issue for teaching? Is like, all right, Mondays, no, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. Wednesday's the middle of the week. It's the longest day, and now we're gonna be like, guess what, everybody?
Stay an
We
extra hour.
we
Yeah,
gotta
well,
stay an
Friday
extra.
everyone wants to get out. I don't,
We're gonna
I
have
don't.
a We're gonna have a PD session on how much your great test scores suck, and you need to improve. You need to be a little less racist, and
Yeah,
uh, and be nicer to the kids. And even though you're the nicest person, most popular teacher, your scores are great. You still suck.
are you better? You sound a little resentful. You sound. I'm sure that wasn't you personally. That must have been another teacher speaking there.
That was another one.
That was
That was
it.
that was a different one. I've seen those popular teachers get treated like that. I wasn't that good of it. Like, I mean, all right. So a little bit about us. I
I was
was
going
a
to say,
teacher.
let's
Yeah,
let's talk about
let's
who
start
we
from the
are.
begin.
Let's talk about how we met. So this is welcome to the Teachers Lounge. The coffee's always on. We're ready to go. Let's who are you?
All right,
Where did
so
we meet? How did we get together? The people want to know.
yeah, I am Johnson. He is Thompson. We are both high school history teachers, and we were at the same school at different times. I missed him by a year. The summer he left is the summer I came in.
Yes.
And not only did I take over his history classes, I took over his
Talk about
rugby
my rugby
team.
program, which I guess.
So
Talk
it's
about
like,
comparing rosters. Talk about someone who should have given you fair warning and tipped you
yeah.
off a little bit what you were
So
inheriting.
and then it was like, wait a minute, where's Thompson? Oh, we got Johnson and instead of Thompson, and then it's like, great,
Yeah,
history teacher, white dude. Can you do
beard.
rugby?
You had the grizzly beard too.
Yeah, I had the beard
Yeah.
too. I
So
just had a lot more hair,
yeah,
and so it was like, can you do rugby? No, but I'll try. I love the sport. I'll try. And so that's how we came about to meeting. Is in fact, I still have the coach's jacket
you.
handed down to me by Thompson. And
That's great.
needless to say, my first year there was the last year of the rugby program, and so I still have the jacket.
You still got the jacket, yeah. And they kept calling you Thompson too, right? Like all my players. It was Johnson. It was so close, Johnson and Thompson. So they. And yeah, that's how we really met, man. It was rugby. Rugby. You know, yeah, it was kind of the common ground, and then we went from there. So we're both high school history teachers. So we decided, you know what, we always ended up, you know, talking, meeting at rugby and talking about teaching, and I was kind of filling Johnson in on the old, you know, my old school, my old stomping grounds there, and was still helping with the rugby program there. And we talked all the time and bitched and complained all the time about it. So we might as well just we might as well do a podcast, and you know, for teachers by teachers, and
so no principals allowed. If you're a principal and you're listening to this,
admin, yes, this is
you probably should go. Like, we're not going to mention you by name or your school by name or district by name.
We said, yeah.
But if you're a principal, come on, you may not want to hear this, because let's face it, most principals forgot. They forgot.
Yeah.
They forgot.
Like, they're not on the front lines anymore. They forgot where they came from.
Yeah.
I hate the principals who never even were in the classroom, or it's not even. No, this is what gets to me is the high school principals who taught in elementary school, but now they're high school principals. You know, so it's like, no, this is two different worlds. And some of them adapt very well. My principal starts elementary school teacher, and she adapted. I don't know how long, but other teachers, I'm like, no, this is, excuse me, two completely different worlds here. There's a good reason why it's two different programs in college. There's a reason why you get two different certifications, because early childhood education and secondary ed, and the same thing with, you know, academia and higher education. There's levels to this stuff.
Yeah,
and you know.
And that's kind of the interesting thing is we've both been on all three sides of K-12.
Yes. Yeah. We both taught elementary at one point. I did elementary for 2 years, and then there's a good reason why I'm back at high school. As the show progresses, you will see why I was not exactly built to be an elementary school teacher, although I love those little fuckers. It's reasons like that you know, you can't, like at high school you can get away with, like, you're at your laptop, they're doing their work, and you go like, ah, shit, and you know, everyone, you always mumble like under your breath, oh, and like elementary school, it's like, ooh, they all jump up. In high school, it's like, I'm like, ah, shit, they just keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, if you cuss in high school, the chances are it's just gonna look at you go like, what the fuck was that about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, in high school, you can always get a little bit more away with taking a nap.
Well, yes. Yeah. Elementary school, you have to be on point 24. I mean, you have to be alert and on them, because they could be. I literally had a class where the kids were literally running up the walls. I mean, they were starting at one end of the classroom, sprinting and trying to run up the walls. And I was like, dude, this is not going to work. You know, just not, no, not going to happen.
There are teachers right now going, wait a minute. You took a nap in a high school class? I would just say it wasn't us that took the nap, but we know the guy that took the nap.
Yes, we do know, and he's going to be a guest. He will be a special guest, host on our special guest on the show.
We need to have him on the episode about state standards, because if there's one guy that knows a standard inside and out, other than me and you, he memorizes it like a pastor memorizing a Bible.
I was going to say, you're giving me way too much credit, because as far as social studies, you could be blindfolded, spin around, and you could throw a rock and can't hit, and hit a state standard. You know, they always want them posted up on the board, and it's like, no, man, you can't throw it's like falling out of a boat and hitting water. You know, you're going to hit a standard in social studies, and when they're so broad and so vague.
At the same time, state standards is also why teaching social studies sucks.
Yeah, well, that's kind of true too. But I'm hoping eventually, we're hoping that we build this so when people are calling in or emailing in or tweeting at us, making comments on YouTube, that regardless of what state you're in, what country you're in, eventually we're gonna be covering a pretty broad range of topics, man. I'd like to teach, talk about it's from what is it like state to state teaching. What is it like at every level, elementary, high school, even academia, going to university, teaching abroad. We're talking about charter schools, Montessori, and everything else. And so we're really hoping. Just the one thing we just don't want to mention particular states. We're not trying to throw anyone under the bus. This is all in
In
jest,
general.
in general, and in jest, and all lighthearted. Although we are going to be tackling some serious issues, and it's going to get uncomfortable. I kind of want it to get uncomfortable. I want some people to cringe. I can already hear the sighs under there. Some people are going to love this, and some people I can already hear the sighs under their breath, and I can see the passive aggressive eye rolls. But it's going to go down. So I'm really looking forward to this.
But I mean, we know teachers in several other states than the one we live in, and I
Yes.
hear them all saying the same thing,
Right.
especially with today's topic, which is teaching in this pandemic, this virtual teaching, because let's face it, it is a struggle. Teaching in this pandemic has been a massive, massive struggle because you're expecting kids to pay attention you're expecting kindergartners to pay attention online, right?
Yeah.
Kindergarten all the way through 12th. Pay attention to me online. Do your schoolwork online. And if you have a kid who's like in an at-need school, their parents lost their job, they can't afford internet, then they got to find internet. Okay. Like our district,
get a hotspot.
Yeah, that we work in, like they've spent a lot of money on getting hotspots, but there are some districts in this country, like where I grew up in California, there were kids sitting outside of a Taco Bell
just to get the Wi-Fi.
Wow. Like they weren't ordering food, they weren't drinking anything. They just sat on a curb outside of Taco Bell just to use the internet, and it made like national news. Okay. It's national news. Out of Salinas, California, 2 students, elementary school students, older elementary, but sitting on a curb, boom, getting Wi-Fi. It has been a massive, massive struggle for students and for parents and for teachers. Okay. Like I've seen teachers all across my school, and it's like, okay, I need you to sit up. You're trying to tell a kid online who's at home in his PJs or her PJs on a couch, or in one case, I saw a kid laying in bed eating Trix.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. And you're like, sit up, pay attention, do this. That's a struggle. That is a massive, massive struggle. And one thing I've noticed, if you're a teacher who can't engage your students very well in class with them sitting here, good luck. Good luck on getting their attention to be like, okay, pay attention to me on this same screen that you would normally be watching YouTube or pick whatever cartoon.
Right. There's so much more stimulation elsewhere online, and especially teachers like me and you who really sell our personalities. I know I'm speaking for myself anyway. I don't consider myself a very technical teacher. I'll be the first to admit I kind of sell my personality. And virtual learning, it's kind of the chamber of truth, man. As far as like, if you are a really good teacher, you have to, whether you're a technical teacher, you have to really sell your personality. I mean, whether in person or out person, if you don't have personality, you're just droning on, and you're not being, regardless of the technicality, you're not building relationships, you're not getting engagement. And this has been like a really tough topic. I mean, for our first episode, we're in the middle of this. We have to talk about it. We've chewed our food twice. We've kicked it down. I mean, it's been talked about so much, but it's really like, I was a little bit hesitant at first even to get into it, because we've heard about it so much, and what more can we, but now that we're at the tail end of it and we've processed it and digested it a little bit, and we can look back and say, like, it's been fully processed, man. And yeah, like I have to say, I know teachers who have left this year because of this, because of teaching the pandemic and because of the difficulty. So you're talking about the video, right? How, trying to keep the kids engaged, and I'm selling my personality, and I've learned a lot more technical stuff, and everyone's doing all these PD sessions. Luckily for you and I, we were doing Canvas, our, the online platform we're using, prior to, I mean, I've been doing it for years. I was kind of prepared for this, coincidentally.
Right.
Going from a technology school. So we were kind of prepped for the we trying to transition pretty seamlessly. But yeah, I know a lot of teachers, man. It's been a struggle, and I keep calling it the chamber of truth. It's the crucible.
Yeah.
This is the test. You're not Teddy Atlas, famous boxing coach, right? He coached Mike Tyson, he under Customato, and he says you're not a lawyer until you've been tested in the courtroom and there's this case where you know your client's innocent, but he's all the cards are stacked and you prove him innocent and you get him off. Then you're a lawyer. You're not a doctor until a kid comes in, just like your kid you have at home, and he's man, there's blood everywhere, blood, guts, and ass, and it's not in the textbook, and you've got to keep him alive, and then you've been tested. Then you could say you're a doctor. Same thing with teaching. You're not a teacher until you've been, if you're at one of these, and I'm going to say just an overprivileged school for lack of what, we really want to say, one of the more affluent schools, you could be a teacher there and say, oh, they have such good teachers at this school. And it's like, well, are you a good teacher? Or you just have really good teachers with very good, do you have good students with good parental support and you have financing, right?
Right.
I think you're not a real teacher until you've been until you're in a Title I school, until you're in underprivileged school, until you've been tested. And for all teachers all around, this right here, virtual learning and teaching during the pandemic, this is the test. This has been the chamber of truth. Like, are you a real teacher? Can you, under these circumstances, under this pressure, can you adapt or die? Are you going to sink or swim? And this has really been the focal point of, and a lot of teachers have been weeded out and found out, hey, not teachers.
Yeah.
Not good for it.
Well, and I mean, on top of being able to teach, if you're a teacher and you don't know jack about technology,
yeah,
you're behind. Like, I was like you. When I saw Canvas and all the online stuff and the advantages of like, hey, look, if you got a kid who's just had surgery, they can access stuff. And I saw like something's going to happen one day. Well, we're going to really, really need this. And so, in my first year of teaching high school, I took the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced classes for Canvas and just really learned it and mastered it. And it was like, oh, okay. But now you have teachers like, oh my God, how do I do this? How do I upload? I'm like, how long have you been teaching? 5 years. And you've never used this?
Yeah.
No.
When I say you and I aren't technical teachers, I don't mean technical like digital literacy technical. I just mean like the pedagogy. There's some teachers who are good with the pedagogy and following procedure and compliance. I mean, no, we are good technical as far as that. And I love Canvas. I love the online platform because you don't have to worry about kids losing their papers. They can't say that they lost the paper. No, the assignment's online. It's always there. You can't lose it. If you don't, you don't have to worry about them putting their name on it and worrying about deciphering, deciphering handwritings. So I love the online platform. Sorry to cut you off there.
No. Because I mean, the technical side is everything. I mean, it's everything from the actual technology side and to the way you actually teach class. Like if you're that teacher that is mundane, like remember Ben Stein? Remember Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller? If you are the teacher in person, that's Bueller. And this is called the what? Trickle down economics. Dude, if you're that economics teacher in high school in person and you're going into this, good luck, Jack. Because I know I wouldn't pay attention. Like I with what I'm doing in the elementary school right now, I do all the technology stuff. And so I'm going from classes to classes. I've watched teachers. I've gone into teachers' classes and just try to fix something. And I'm like, you're boring me.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what you're doing to that fifth grader. But then on the flip side, I go to a first grade class in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's Friday. In fact, this was today. Normal teachers are tired by 1 o'clock on a Friday. This girl was like energetic. Boom, every single kid engaged, ready to answer, ready to do stuff, and I'm like, really?
That's a teacher.
It's a Friday afternoon and you've got those kids engaged. First graders, they were engaged at 1 o'clock in an online class.
That's amazing. They weren't phoning it in. They weren't doing movie day, video clip day. They were really, that's impressive.
Like that's a teacher at the once the year's over, they're gonna be like, oh hey, your numbers were up. Well, yeah, because she was an
Yeah.
engaging teacher
Yeah.
in this disaster. Because guess what? We still got to take tests.
I know the standardized testing. Well, that's another thing too. We could talk about the differentiate instruction, but we're going to standardize testing.
Yeah.
So we want meaningful activities in class, but why are we still doing standard? Well, that's a whole nother episode. And it's funny when me and you, but the home audience doesn't know. When me and you were shooting the shit, we were like, just kept branching and going off in tangents. Like, oh, that's another episode. Fuck, we can write a whole. Damn, we just got a whole another 10 new episodes just to shoot.
Oh, I'm sure once people start like messaging us, they're gonna be like, "What about this episode? What about that episode?" Yeah. I'm pretty sure like listeners are gonna give us another 2 seasons of episodes. But back on this one,
what I love too, buddy? I'm just seeing your background. I'm just seeing your background of everything that you have.
Class comedy.
I got Class Clown. There it is. I just noticed we have the same comedy record, Steve Martin, hanging up.
Yeah, I got Steve Martin. I've got the Eddie Murphy. I've got Richard Pryor.
You got Rodney up there.
Rodney. I think we have the same Robin Williams one too.
Yeah, we got same Robin Williams, Carlin, Steve. You gotta have the classics, man.
But I literally do have the Class Clown right
above you,
right above me. Like that's just, I didn't really plan that. I did look up and go, oh,
Class
but
Clown.
You know what?
That is so funny. That's right there for Teacher's Lounge.
But I mean, as a teacher, I've been the Class Clown.
Of course. But that's why you relate. I find out that the teachers who were more relatable, because here's my thing with teaching, and it's always has been, and I guess this is kind of especially true even now during the pandemic and virtual learning. A lot of teachers, for the most part, and there's nothing inherently wrong with this, but they've always been goody-goodies. They've always been perfectionists. They've always turned their nose up, and they always, when a student does well, oh, they're hugging that student, taking pictures. Look what I did with this student. But then when the student does bad or poorly, they're pushing them. Well, oh no, that's the parent's fault. They'll take credit for the good student, but push away the bad student. Whereas Class Clowns like me and you, we can relate to those unengaged, and we know what they're thinking already. So that's why our numbers, our evaluations, our final exam scores, as far as our showing growth, we use EVOS right. Where we are. We can connect so much more, and we're just so much more likable to to that demographic of students, because we get it. We're not turning our nose up at them. We're not ostracizing them. I know even the really, really good teachers, they care, and they're very empathetic, and they love their kids, and they want it. But I've seen some teachers almost like belittle and be very condescending towards students who aren't meeting the standard, and not that you almost want to, I don't want to say lower the bar, but scaffold, and they try and do that, but when it doesn't work, they almost give up because they just don't get that student. They don't know what makes that student tick. They don't know what's going on in that student's personal life, because these teachers are so used to having the cookie cutter perfect mold of a life that they just kind of write those other kids off, and those kids need to be taught. And this is we'll save this for the charter school, charter school versus public school versus private charter, because I have a whole segment on that. This demographic does need to be taught. Students who have been booted, or whatever you want to call the technical term, from their public school, and now have to enroll in a charter school because of behavioral issues, and so on and so forth.
That is that's an interesting topic with that, and you're right, that's a whole different episode, because I mean I've seen a charter, like the first school I worked at was a charter school, and that was a legitimate place that really wanted to focus on kids who didn't have a shot in the public school, and they were totally had the right heart. I've been in a charter school where it's like that's a hiding place.
Yes.
And then the school that like my wife teaches at a charter school, and it's basically a hiding place for a lot of wealthy white privileged kids. Like, let's
Yeah.
just put it that way. But that's a totally different episode. So hey, things to come.
Yeah,
But
things that come to charter schools. Like I've got, because I've worked at both charters, public. Yeah, we're pretty diverse, man. I think we've got a lot, a
yeah,
lot to offer and talk about. But as far as getting back to, say, underprivileged students and the pandemic and the, like you said, the wireless connection, the Wi-Fi. I remember my power went out in my complex. I'm in a condo complex. And I bumped into another teacher at McDonald's because you were talking about the kids sitting outside Taco Bell for Wi-Fi. We both went into McDonald's together to get Wi-Fi to get our work done. And I imagine how, like, wow, that was like that for one day for us. Can you imagine what it's like for
every day.
yeah. And oh, what I really wanted to get into, I don't know if you're having this issue with you or any other teachers. Things come down from the state. So this whole pandemic, let's start from the beginning. Let's start, for me, it was Friday the 13th. March 13th of 2020 was when we officially went out, right? We were supposed to be for 2 weeks. Then the 2 weeks got extended to a month, then the May, then they just canceled the rest of the school year. And the one thing they did was they pushed a lot of students through the system because of this. They kind of conditioned, and it comes down from the state. So like the state, I'd get an email from the state, and then I'd get an email from the superintendent, and the same email. Like, the state would email everyone. The governor. I'm not going to mention the name of the state we're in. You'll figure it out, I'm sure, eventually with some contextual clues. But it comes down from the state, then the superintendent, then the administrator. So I'd get like 5 different emails saying the same thing about, we're going out for 2 weeks, we're going out for this, we're going out for that, right? The two biggest issues was that they defeated us. They defeated the teachers, and I'm saying that maybe not our administration, because they're taking orders from superintendent and taking orders from the board, taking orders from the state. So I'm getting all these, that we failed our students by passing them. Right. And even before the pandemic, they got pushed through, meaning that they said, okay, well, if you're passing by third quarter and you're happy with your grade, you don't have to do anything fourth quarter, and you're exempt and you got pushed through. And then there were kids, so the kids who were high flyers who had 90s, even those kids were like, I'm happy with my 90, I'll settle with that, cool. But the other students who were at like a 66, a 65 were like, well, hey, I'm passing, who cares? That's a passing, I'll take that. And then there were some students who were failing, and we said, well, do no harm. We need to, and that's another thing too. I've always said repeatedly, there was no playbook for this. There was no owner's manual. This is unprecedented. You can go back to the Spanish flu of 1990. There was, there was nothing to reference. No major Supreme Court case, that set the precedent for anything. So this is a historical moment that will set the precedent for future issues. Point being is that we failed them by passing them, is that we've conditioned them. Our students have been conditioned. Now the new school year starts, but these kids have already been conditioned. Oh, well, we're just going to get pushed through. They pushed us through last year. They gave us a get out of jail free card last year. They're going to do it again this year, and they know how to work the system. And the parents now know how to work the system. We've heard of helicopter parents. Well, now we have a new term called lawnmower parents. That would just mow down everything in front of the kids to get by, and they know it. They know how to play the game. So they kind of defeated us in that sense, that we worked so hard to help the kids out and push the kids, and then all of a sudden they said, we're going to pass them anyway. This was, this end of year was a wash. And we go, great. Okay, now this year comes. Here, this is what the video you're talking about, the kid laying in bed eating his cereal, right?
Right.
They make a big push. Kids have to have their videos on. Kids have their videos on. Keep with the videos on. The entire first month, all we did was push kids. Hey, Justin. Hey, Lisa, put your video on. Hey, Chloe, put your video on. Then all of a sudden, we get a mandate from the district. Oh, kids no longer have to put their videos on because parents are complaining that they might have a family of 5 and there's a lot of noise in the background. They don't have to have their mics on or videos on, or that they might be their house might be a mess. So they wanted, so I'm like, you guys just defeated, a month worth of our hard work. And so now, and you have kids that it's like, you have to follow. I don't want to say a threat, but if you say something to a child, especially a teenager, you have to follow through and be consistent with what you're, because otherwise, if you just say it, well, now it's an empty threat. He's all talk. His bark is,
Right.
And the district just kind of like conditioned these kids that, oh, they're on our side. The teachers are powerless, and they've kind of like. And
Well,
I've even said to the kids, guys, how many people are laying in bed right now? Turn on your videos just for 5 seconds. Who's laying in bed? And they all flip it on and they're laughing, like you said, eating a bowl of cereal. They've got their, laptop on there night, and I'm just like, you guys got to be kidding me. No wonder why this is,
and I mean, even like with the elementary side, okay, they ended early last year. So the first
Right.
month was catch up of last year.
Yes.
Right. Then try to review, catch up, then get started. So now you're a month behind. But then with the Zoom stuff, because for the elementary side, they were actually having the video on and the audio on. So you had like parents cussing in the background.
Yep.
There's been a couple times where a mom was like half naked walking by, right? And it's like all of a sudden, second graders are seeing the mom's junk hanging out, and it's like, a lot of parents did not use common sense with this.
Well,
like,
that's true too. Yeah.
Like in this like really jacked up milking stool of education in a pandemic, one of those legs is parents, and there was a lot of great parents who boom, they were on it. There were some parents who did not use common sense, and to have a mom walk by naked, half naked, and first graders are looking at us going like, what is that? My mom don't have those. Or probably middle school had that same issue. But then you had the Zoom bombers. Did you get a Zoom bomber?
The Zoom booms, yes. Zoom booms.
Look, we had them.
Zoom booms. We had hacks.
Like
we had
and
playing
luckily,
porn. They would boom in and just play pornographic sounds and something like that.
Right.
Oh my God,
luckily, our district bought the education version of Zoom, which sucks. Zoom sucks. It sucks.
It does. I use Google Meet.
Look, and dude, the tech side of our district, even the tech people are like, don't use Zoom. We don't even use Zoom. Go use Google Meet. Or no, we were using Microsoft Teams.
Microsoft Teams. Okay. Yes.
Right. So, but finding a way to talk to a technician, someone getting like support help from Zoom, right, is like finding a drop of water in the middle of a desert, because you're not going to do it. Right. You're not going to do it. You can't. There's no technical help with Zoom at all. You can't get it. It doesn't exist. They don't exist. I don't know who controls Zoom. As far as I know, Zoom is ran by aliens in a different planet, and they're just not talking to us. Like Zoom hasn't even okay, I'm gonna go with the stereotypical joke, but Zoom hasn't even branched out to a tech service in India anywhere. You can't get anybody on a phone.
They haven't even outsourced to India. They haven't gone public. They're not being publicly traded. I forgot the guy's name. He's an Asian gentleman. I can't remember, but in the very beginning they said CEO Zoom will allow educators to do it for free. But I don't see, you're on the tech side. Some people might have missed that. You were a teacher. Yeah. You're now doing tech. You're now on the IT side. So you're really seeing both sides.
I see it from the tech side. I see it on the admin side, and I see it on the teacher side. And getting help on Zoom is basically having a online chat with a computer. And if you don't get the right specific word, forget it. And
I didn't know this. You're teaching me something now. I'm learning about. See, I don't know what it's like on the IT side. So this is
the IT side is torture. The IT side is torture. Okay. First off, and we still got to finish the whole how we lost. The teachers lost. We still got to finish that one. But on the tech side, all right. So teachers lost. Teachers lost. Unless you're a great teacher, you know everything about technical side, which is basically the computer teachers.
Right.
Unless you're a history teacher and you're just a big nerd, or whatever. Anyways, okay. So Zoom sucks. Okay. Chromebooks. Majority of schools use Chromebooks.
Yes,
Chromebooks are the cheapest
of course.
thing. They're they're the Mediterranean property on a Monopoly board. Okay, they're cheap. They're extremely cheap. They
Yeah.
break down very easy. Our district decides, hey, let's give K2 students an iPad. Brand new, like $300 iPad,
Yeah.
right? So those get broke a lot. Apps don't work. Canvas broke down like every single day for the first 2 weeks. Okay. Zoom bombing. What else went wrong? Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And if you have teachers that don't know anything about technology, I'm a 25-year-old who just got out of college, don't know anything about technology, they're screwed. How do I do this? How do I do it? And if you're an experienced teacher like us who have been around Canvas, but you've never taken the time to get to know Canvas, how do I do this? How do I do that? How long you been doing this? 10 years. How long you been around Canvas? Since the beginning, and you haven't used it, that's your fault.
I haven't used that feature. Well, there is a lot of bells and whistles to Canvas. There's a lot of bells and whistles that have been you didn't need to use them before. Now you do. And Google Classroom. I want to take a poll and survey of nationwide teachers. Are you using Google Classroom? Are you using Canvas? What's the online platform? Because we're using Canvas, and I really wonder. And like you said, I feel bad for the first year. Like you said, 25 years old. You just went to college for 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, to learn how to be a traditional teacher. And now your first year is nothing at all about what you learned about. But I'm kind of wondering what other, because I know some use Google Classroom. Right. Well, and you talked about Chromebooks sucking. You have to remember we're in the public sector. Yeah. Everything goes to the lowest bidder. Right. Do you remember the scene? Do you remember the movie Armageddon when Steve Buscemi he straps in his seatbelt and he goes, "Just think, every single piece on this spacecraft was bidded out, was sold, was bought out by the lowest, put together by the lowest bidder. It's all the cheapest stuff in the public school. People bid on it place bids to get, and we go for the lowest bidder. So no wonder why the public sector sucks.
And look, and worse, our district shipment of because we're using the HP Chromebooks, right? HP's shipment of new Chromebooks and parts got stopped at the border, right? In customs, it got stuck in customs because they violated some laws. Which laws I don't know because it never made the news. Go figure. And they got their stuff.
You got the real inside scoop, man. I love teachers who get when it's like, oh, it didn't make
it. Dude.
That's why this is the teachers lounge. The teachers lounge essentially is when teachers share their inside scoop information. Then when they have a certain, like I serve on a couple different boards in my school, take some leadership roles. So I know now I don't abuse that. I don't spread rumors. But I know a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that other teachers don't know about. And when they bring it up, sometimes I have to be like, I can't say it. I know it. I know what's going on, but I don't want to, because I'm going to blow up somebody else's spot. But you right there, you got some insider information. Man.
Yeah. And then on top of that, my job was, how do we make teaching easier? Especially once we got to the point where we could have a few students in school and then the rest of them home. How do you teach them both? How do you connect them? That was not easy. Some schools, we started using swivels, which is like this little tiny robot head that you put an iPad on and it will just swivel around and follow you. And students at home can see what's going on in the classroom and vice versa. And hooks up your desktop. It's an expensive piece of equipment. It's okay. It works all right. But honestly, if you have an iPad, you can actually just walk around your classroom with an iPad on Zoom with the whiteboard and write everything, and boom, there it is in front of the students.
Wow, yeah.
I find it took me several months to figure out, okay, what's the easiest way to teach?
Yes.
To get teachers on there. But now it's just there's so much of this that's complicated. There's so much that's complicated on the tech side. Then the admin side, they're hearing it. The front office is hearing it. the teachers are dealing with it going, how do I do this? What do I do? I got people walking around naked. I got people cussing. I got these impressionable kids hearing this. I got to be like, stop teaching the one here, address the one at home, or vice versa. And then I lose it and then it's complicated. But then in some schools, like my wife has an immunity disorder. She has MS. So she couldn't be in the building. She's had a substitute in her building babysitting her kids, basically, because that's what substitutes are. They're babysitters. I'm going to say it because I was one. You're a babysitter. Guess what? You get paid for that. Anyways, while she teaches the kids online. And that was complicated too.
Because elementary went back. Elementary school. Now we haven't even got into the hybrid models in Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C yet.
That was a disaster. Like every school did something different. Every grouping in my school did something different. Some people were like, okay, well, I'm having A, B, and you're going to have A, B. And we're going to teach them both. Some teachers figured it out, especially now that you can have, because we just went back to where we can have all the kids in the building again, but there's still some at home.
The board voted after spring break. Doing that.
There's still some there.
The fourth schedule change for these kids who can barely get their homework assignments in on time and follow, as a history teacher, they can't even follow sequential order of events, so they don't know how to read a timeline. Some of them can't even point out our state on a map.
Dude.
I said, can you point out North Korea? You want a hint? It's right above South Korea. And now you're giving them 4 different schedule changes, which opens up another can of worms now.
I had a student 2-3 years ago ask me if Kentucky was still in the same spot because he thought it moved. Okay. Anyways, he's like, is it still in the same spot? I'm like,
why would Kentucky?
I thought I saw it somewhere else. I'm like, because I got tired of the people in West Virginia. I don't know. Anyways, it is so bizarre on all levels. But now that we have it to where more kids can be in there, so some teachers went, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to take my class. So let's say ELA teacher and math teacher. ELA teacher students are going to go with the math teacher. So she has all the students
all in person.
And then the other one has all the digital or the online learning, and then they switch over. And that's working beautifully right there. And it's an amazing thing, but God, it is so freaking hard. But it's because, like you said, there was no playbook. Number one, no playbook. And the sad part is we should have you can't really say, okay, there's got to be something coming at some point. I mean, come on. But at the same time, we live in an area where, guess what? Hurricanes, snow days, blah, blah, blah. They kind of should have probably figured this out. But guess what? If anything, we now know there's no more snow days in the South.
Yes, I was just going to say, now you can't even do a snow day because now we could just go virtual.
Yep.
But yeah, the plan A, like you mentioned earlier, going back to you talking about the different plans. I always say a house divided, Abraham Lincoln, a house divided can't stand against itself. We're either all in or we're all out. This whole 50-50 hybrid mix, I knew it was going to open a can of worms. Like you said, you can't be mad at anybody. Decisions had to be made, and you really couldn't be mad at the bureaucracy, but at the same time, like you said, we should have. Well, first of all, this wasn't a true. Even outside of education, this quarantine should have been over. This whole thing if it's a 2-week incubation period, this was not a true quarantine because Starbucks was open. And then, you know what I mean? If it was, I know you're a Java junkie, but a true quarantine should have been like the gas crisis in the late 70s, right? Even numbers. If your license plate ends in an even number, you get gas on this day. Odd number, you get gas on this day, right? They should have did that with shopping and supplies. They said, okay, your license plate ends in an even number. You guys go this day, stock up on all the supplies you need, and based upon your survey, what's it called? The how many people you have in your house, depending upon your tax returns, how many dependents you have. This is how much toilet paper you're allowed to get because people, right? And that's it. You grab your gear, you grab your shit, you hunker down for 2 weeks. That's it. And the government will subsidize rent, any other things. You don't go to work. You're in there for 2 weeks, like it's Armageddon, like your bug out shelter. This is a doomsday thing, doomsday prepper, right? This should have been treated like a doomsday prepper scenario. So even license plates, you grab all your gear, everything you need to feed your kids. There you go. You're in for 2 weeks. You don't leave the house. Odd numbers. Now you guys go. You grab all your gear for 2 weeks. Guess what? Everyone's inside for 2 weeks. Problem solved.
Mhm.
If it's a 2 week incubation period, you're sick for 2 weeks, then the thing dies off on its own. But no, people are out. Like I said, Wendy's was open. I mean, essential workers. No, essential workers are people in the medical field, and that's about it. Truck drivers, yes, they're essential, but they should have only been, even for those 2 weeks, they should have been essential for those 2 weeks to get the supplies where they had to go, and then they shut down for 2 weeks. And
Mhm.
tough shit if you didn't go out and get, it's. I mean, seriously, that this. It's America. We were
Right.
Americans, and people are like, oh, this has to end soon. We're at the no. This is America. This can go on forever.
Right.
Because of how Americans are.
And here, okay, and so here's the bigger piece to why, like, I can see what you're saying and agree with this, because the students overall, teachers have been screwed on this. The IT side, we're like been busy. Like, I'm exhausted. My comedy game has sucked because I'm tired, right?
Yeah.
But okay, the students and teachers who have been stuck. My wife's been teaching from the house for a year now, a full calendar year. But students, they lost a whole season of sports.
Oh, the seniors, poor seniors, man.
Right.
How Thomas Sean it was.
Right. If you are whether you're a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, and you're basically like sports is what's going to get you to college or the next level, and all of a sudden you've lost it, that means you've lost records and game footage and possibilities. How do you get recruited?
Yeah.
There was a student in California. Yeah. There was a softball student, a girl who committed suicide in California because like she saw her future, like she couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle it. You're expecting students to be cooped up all year long for the last part of that year.
Skills. Yeah, we're adults. At least we have some coping skills and life experience. Yeah, these students,
like where we live.
I want to hear this. This is
I don't even know if the baseball and softball season are going on because we just started football season.
I know that. That's crazy. Football and I never thought of that. It's the chamber of truth for students too. Students who were relying solely on their athletic ability. Whoa, you guys just got the rug pulled out, and I'm thinking from the seniors who are like, hey, it's my senior year, I'm a starter, I get to, I wasn't even thinking about like, some people are dependent upon their athletics, and now they just lost out on
we've taught a lot of those kids that the baseball player, softball player, they're waiting for that moment, that senior day where they get to sign their paper saying, I'm going to be committed to insert college here to play the game, and they're going to give me a scholarship. I'm going to get an education. I might not make it to the pros, but at least I got an education out of it. They lost that. They lost that season. Like softball players, like I said, for our state, softball and baseball did not play last year. Spring soccer didn't play last year. Rugby didn't play last year. Now they're not playing this year. So now those players have lost 2 seasons. If you're junior and senior and you've lost 2 seasons, now you got to hope to be a walk-on. That's even if you get into the college, right? Now I know college isn't for everybody, and we'll talk about that one day.
Well, that'll be another episode.
If you are that student who is relying on athletics to get you your college education, and you've just lost 2 years of baseball, softball, basketball, whatever, because every state's different. Dude, what do you do? Like, students got screwed out of this. Everybody got screwed. Students, admin, teachers, parents who haven't been able to go to work because they have to be at home with their kids all the time, or having to pay extra money because that became a business this year, is all day learning centers. I know where I live, there's a couple where, hey, you pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars and we'll make sure your kid has internet and everything else they need. So now you're losing money. Like parents got screwed out of this too.
It's really impacting everybody. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'll be straight up. Like I see a therapist. I just just to be the best version of myself. My therapist said, "Yo, I am. This is good for business." But she's like, my business has went from it skyrocketed where she is so swamped that I canceled an appointment one day just from exhaustion or whatever. I said, "Hey, I'm not going to come in today. Can we reschedule?" And she goes, "Yo, I can't reschedule you. I can't get you in this month." Because if as soon as I have an open spot, I've got 10. People are so stressed out. I mean,
Right.
but you're crammed in with your family. Now, some people have been taking a true quarantine, and they're stuck with their wife, their 2.5 kids, the cat, the dog. They have to do their business from home, so they're on their laptops. The broadband's probably running slow as I mean. Plus,
Yeah.
like you said, Zoom's depending on what medium platform you're using, and you've got 2 kids, your 2.5 kids, whatever the case is. Your wife, you're on your desktop. Your wife's in the bed on the. I mean, and
Your
people are
bills
going
just
crazy.
went up.
Your bills, your electric bill's going up. Everything else is going up, and you guys, you're trying to work your job and work from home, and still keep an eye on your child's work,
Yeah.
and then dealing with like your significant other who the only reason why it's working is because of work. Some people actually enjoy going to work because it gives them that opportunity to miss and get some breathing room. You don't realize how much you really fucking hate the person that you're.
Gives you time to talk to people.
Yes, it's their
outside
social
of your
life.
house.
People's jobs are their social hour.
Right.
I mean,
Now-
it's a Friday night. We're teachers, and here we are. We're not out at the club. This is how we're.
Okay, so with my house right now, the room I'm sitting in, this has
Yes.
been my wife's classroom for the last year. And that when she's done, this becomes my office for comedy and everything else.
Right.
But she's been stuck in this room for a year. The only advantage I had last year when this whole thing started is I got to watch a lot of baseball.
Right. Korean baseball. You were watching, right?
I was watching Taiwan because
Taiwan.
I know we're not supposed to mention Taiwan as a country, as a free democratic country, because it might piss off the Chinese and ABC and all those other stuff. But look, Taiwan was literally the first country to get out of the quarantine because they did all the right things. And then guess what?
They were a small island nation. Yeah.
But Taiwan and then Korean that's great baseball. Great baseball.
Yes.
Anyways, that was the only advantage I had.
I remember you telling me this story. You're like, I'm watching Korean baseball. This is great.
Dude, it was good baseball. I was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning just watching
playing
baseball,
on the other side of the world.
Right. And but I mean it was great. But I mean, after a while of a few months of being stuck in this house, and dude, you're in an apartment, you're in a condo by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's like, I mean, I would probably
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, because you don't have anybody complaining at you.
Well, yes, but no, at the same time, you do. I mean, the walls. So we talked about this too. Even in the classroom, I mean, again, these are the rules of education. Teachers had to go back for a few weeks, even though we had to teach from our classrooms at first. I don't know why. So we had to teach in an empty classroom, and I'm in an empty classroom, going, "Why am I here? I could do this from my kitchen counter." And it's funny how your mind reacts to it because you're so. It's funny when the kids were there, they wouldn't shut the hell up, and you'd get sensory overdrive, and you'd be, but now when it's empty, now it's dead. Now it's like solitary confinement. I mean, your room isn't decorated. It's got that nice cold prison feel to it because why decorate the room? The kids aren't coming in. And those first couple of weeks before they did a full approval of working from home, teachers were going insane. We're going, yo, this is weird. This is eerie. Like it's the walls are closing in on me.
Yeah. It's like I mean, that was like maybe the one advantage to where I live is like, okay, this room right here has to be work. The other rooms have to be leisure because I can't sit on my couch in front of the TV and do work all day and then veg out. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I couldn't do it. But I mean, it's been brutal. Nobody's won in this. Nobody's won. But luckily we are back. It looks like we're heading back to some better times. I know the state we're in,
Yeah,
Classes are filling up again. You know, some states are a little worse than others. I know I have a friend in California. He's like,
you told
he's a
me. Yeah,
math teacher, and he's like, dude, I'm not teaching this year because 4 meetings a week
yeah.
and all the state regulations that California has.
Well,
Then
that's
all
California. California takes their they actually, it must be nice to be in a state that takes their education seriously.
yeah,
For those
and
of you
then
wondering what region of the country that we're in,
right.
our state ranks 48th, only behind Mississippi and I think Arkansas. That should give you an idea of what
Arizona.
region. Yeah, in
It's
Arizona. Yeah,
yeah,
so we've narrowed it down. You know where?
the last time I looked, the worst states was it ranked. I think it was Mississippi, Arizona, Nevada. I think
Nevada.
it
I
was.
thought Nevada had a decent. I thought South Carolina maybe or
No, actually, South Carolina. South Carolina. They're not the worst. They're definitely not the best, but they're
they're in
better
the
than the state we're in.
they're. But yes, when you're in a state like California who takes their education seriously, yeah, 4 meeting, they're really trying to, that's brutal, man.
Yeah,
Four
it's
meetings.
yeah. He said they were meeting. They were having just meeting all the time, and so like the state had their pressure, then the district had their pressure, then their
Yes.
principal had more, and he's like, dude, I can't handle it. I'll go back to teaching as soon as this is over with.
Yeah. In fairness, we had a stretch of that. We had a period where the pressure was on the teachers. Like I said, this is the moment of truth, the chamber of truth, the crucible. This is going to form you. And we had MTSS, for those you don't know, multi-tier support. We had the chair was checking boxes. We basically had to make sure that, hey, we have to have these supports in place to support our students who aren't
Right.
doing jack. Because I mean, in this scenario, teachers who are going to do, I mean, students who are going to do their work are going to do their work. Read the high flyers. The janitor could come in and teach the class, and they're going to get do their work. But
Right.
now that the students who normally don't do their work, now they're really not going to do their work. And originally the pressure was on the teachers, so we had to at least have something in place, compliance to say we check this box, we check this box, we have this paper trail saying that we did our end, and that lasted for a good few months of us working really hard before we finally got the word from admin. We're like, hey guys, this isn't your, everyone loosened up and said, hey, this isn't the teacher's fault. Students have to pull
Right.
their weight and meet us 50-50 and meet us halfway. But we had to at least show the paperwork, show the paper trail, and check the boxes to say that,
Right.
hey, because that's a big thing in the community and nationwide, not just our state, was that teachers were being lazy. Teachers
Yeah.
were phoning it in, and we're
Well-
going, no, we're not phoning it in. You're fucking kids. I love the kids. I love them. But if I was a teenager, like you said, we were class clowns, I would have been doing the same thing they did. So it's kind of like,
Well, I mean, this is tense. This is tense for them. Like my son's in
yeah.
high school and
Right.
he got sent home for 14 days, right? Okay. So you're wearing the mask, you're 6 feet apart, but you're stuck on a bus, right? So you've passed
Yeah.
some kid. Now that kid tests positive, but because you were near him for like just a few minutes, now all of a sudden you're going home for 14 days. My son missed his ACT test because of it. Never tested positive. Now here's the kicker. I asked the nurse, I said, okay, if Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees, right? He's around somebody that tested positive, but he tests, then he goes back and he takes 2 tests and they're both negative. He gets to go play.
Yes.
But my student, who remember, it's not supposed to really affect kids, but it does, but
Right.
it doesn't. And so if I go get him tested twice and he's negative, can he come back? No. Well, if it's good for Aaron Judge, why isn't it good? I mean, I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm just using
Right.
what's
Using it
got
as,
in mind.
right.
If it's good for Buster Posey at the San Francisco Giants, why
there
isn't
you
it
go.
good for a 17-year-old? Like, come on,
Yeah.
just because he was near a kid. So think about this. If
Well,
a high school
celebrities,
kid, because in the high schools here where we're at, they're traveling everywhere, right? If one kid tests positive and he's been around 30 other kids throughout one day, that means now you're sending home 31 kids back home. A good chunk of them don't want to be there. They would rather be in school with their friends and learning, and because some of them are more in-person learning. And if you're missing your SATs, ACTs, ASVAB, guess what? The things that got to get you to the next level,
yeah.
you're missing out. You're totally missing out. And so it's time to start rethinking this of how we're doing this, because guess what? We're all screwed.
Yeah, they're projecting by May that everybody who's eligible to get the vaccine, it will be vaccinated nationwide. That they're projected the projections by May. And then we have to go back because these kids need that personal instruction. And I miss it too. Again, I miss the personal connection with my students. I have so much fun teaching. I love it. I mean, I'm like, we both do stand-up comedy. I'm like a stand-up comedian in my room. And that's why my class is roaring and I can get kids. And I miss that. And it's good that this challenged me a little bit. But
it's time to get back.
It is time to get back. And the only good news that came of this is there hasn't been a school shooting in America in over a year. What do we do with active shooter drills now? Are we still manning?
Dude, we hadn't even got to that.
We need to be getting. I know that was on the agenda.
We need to get we have to wrap this up. But okay, so here's the thing. Okay, because being on the tech side, I actually had to update the videos of active shooter. Stay 6 feet apart. Wait. Now it's 3 feet. 3 feet's okay. Remain masked. And remain safe. Look, same thing with a tornado drill. 3 feet apart. Keep your mask on. Look, here's my thing.
We have a safety procedures and expectations episode coming. That was a request on Twitter when I put the word out. Somebody really wanted to have and be a guest on the show and talk about.
Yeah, we can do it. We can get that done. We might have to carry that over next week. But basically, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's what I gathered. Dear mom and dad, it's with deep regret that the active shooter shot your kid. But I have good news. He was socially distanced and didn't get COVID. You're welcome. You're welcome.
We're gonna end on that note. No kidding, but that's a tough. I mean, we say it in general. I mean, you have to laugh so you don't cry.
You do.
Really do. You do. You don't cry in these situations.
You do, because I had to look at it, and then I was talking to my son about it, and it was like, you can help with the COVID stuff and you can do the proper precautions and get over that. What you can't get over is a bullet in your head or God's cocaine straw, the tornado putting you in the next county.
Yeah. We had a tornado warning.
I'll quarantine for 14 days and do whatever you got to do to get rid of the COVID. Don't put me somewhere else that's going to put me in the path of a tornado. Because guess what? I had to be 3 feet apart. Doesn't make any sense. We got to continue that discussion next week.
Yes,
all right.
We will.
So this has been the Teachers Lounge. I am Johnson.
This is Thompson.
And we will see you next time.
Sounds good.